computer.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fly the Coop. I am with Nolan Henningson on my team. Welcome, Nolan. How are you today?
Hello, good morning. I am well. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited to have you on the show. Let's jump right into it. Can you share with everybody who you are, what you do, and what your background is?
Yeah, I'm Nolan. I am a realtor. I'm a member of the Cari Group. I've been on the team now for a few months. I joined in May. Isn't that crazy that it's already been like, what is that, 4 or 5 months now,
It's
which is
crazy how fast.
it feels like it was just yesterday. No, yeah, I've been a licensed agent for a couple years now and got my license in 2020 coming into the pandemic, well, kind of right after the onset of the pandemic, which I think was a popular decision at the time. I think we saw a big influx of realtors entering the market at that time.
Mhm.
Originally, I grew up in Northwest Kansas, so I was there and then went to college in Nebraska, moved to the Twin Cities in 2017. I have a background in events and meeting sales and planning and like hospitality. So worked in like restaurants and bars through college, out of college, and then kind of took that into working in like restaurants and hotels and event and meeting planning.
Very cool.
Yeah, and now here I am. I've been, yeah, so jumped into the industry kind of right at the onset of the pandemic and now have had about 2.5 really great years.
That's awesome. So let's
Yeah.
start with this. We have so much to talk about today. In jumping into this industry, this business, how do
Mhm.
you feel about being an independent agent versus being on a team? And what have you learned in the time that you've been a licensed agent about what that
Yeah,
means?
I knew from the jump that I was not ready to be an independent agent. I didn't have interest in being an independent agent, and also I wanted training. I needed people around me. I wanted hands-on training. I wanted other agents by my side, and I that was something because I had interviewed with a couple different brokerages while I was still getting my license. Interviewed with a couple teams and a couple as an individual agent, and I just kind of realized like, oh, for what I need to be in a team environment.
Right.
A, for just the, like I said, the training, but B, for the resources that you have to put into your business at the onset. Like it is a lot of money to get started and get your license and then to pay for all of your own signs and your marketing and your business cards and your photography. You know, it really stacks up if you're
Right.
starting at base zero. So I knew, well, I'm entering the market with a base zero, so I need some support around me to help me with some of those resources. So that was a really big part of it. I knew I needed that. And yeah, shopped around for teams and was really at that time just looking for someone that I knew could really train me into the industry. Because we all, we take the classes, we do the tests, but they are not giving
No,
you the practice
not real
you
life.
need. if
No,
you, if
it's
you
not.
just take your tests and do your classes, you are not prepared for this industry. It gives you a lot of practical legal jargon and knowledge, but not enough to like actually succeed in this business. And so I knew I needed to join a team so that I could be around people who were pushing me and challenging me and teaching me and helping me in that. Yeah.
Right. Um, in your experience now, interviewing different organizations, where do you
Mhm.
think we stand in a unique position as a team model? Like, what makes us different from everybody else?
Yeah, I think
I'm always
you know
curious what the agents think.
yeah, no, where I was before, I joined that team because there was a lot of really great hands-on training, and I mean, I had weeks of script practicing and going through contracts and learning what every single line meant and doing all of that, and that was really valuable at that time in my career.
Right.
Um, but I'm not looking for that anymore. And that was part of the reason I made the switch when I did, is because, I kind of felt like, okay, I've gotten to a point where I've learned everything I can with this team. And I'm ready to take that next step and go to the next level. And I think that's where this team really sits apart and above some of those other teams is this is a team of high producing agents, and there
Mhm.
are expectations and there's accountability here, and everyone is producing and putting numbers on the board, which is really cool. And I think another part of that is just being in the environment, being at the 50th and France Edina Realty office. Like,
Mhm.
this is a high producing office of people who take this industry really seriously.
Yeah.
And being able to still be be a part of this environment, but still be a member of a team who has the resources, who has Pamela, our incredible client care coordinator, who we have, you know, the social media people in place. We have things like this, like the podcast, you know, we're setting ourselves up to be seen by more people and continue that success at a really high producing brokerage, which is really cool.
I totally agree. It's like, it's an honor to be able to share the knowledge and share the resources. What I love about this work is the organic part of it. Even though meeting and learning the business and meeting people through platforms now, the social media component of it, I do love the fact that we're still grounded in the organic, and we really value the relationships. And it's so cool. I love that.
That's been a huge draw as well. Like when I first joined the team, I think like that next week was the Edina Realty Together event out at Bavaria Downs. And so I had been with the team for I think 4 days. And next thing I know, I'm meeting like 2,000 other Edina agents, which is a lot. It was overwhelming, but it was really cool and exciting. And I think that's something that our team in our office, but our team especially really does well, is we make a lot of time for human connection too, which is really cool. We're getting out there, we're doing like our, not just our team happy hours and our you know, meetings and stuff, but we're also meeting with clients. We're throwing client events, we're doing all sorts of stuff. Like this weekend, we're doing our big pumpkin fest. By the time this is released, that'll have come and gone. So hopefully we'll have some great photos and content out for that. But yeah, it's cool to be in, you know, such a high producing environment where we're taking the social, we're taking everything very seriously, but also making a lot of time for fun and for human connection.
Very, very cool. I love that. So as we evolve in this market, and you're a perfect candidate to be talking about this because of when you entered real estate. So many know that it's been a 20+ year ride for me, and I've loved every minute of it. And I've watched the roller coaster of all these different things that have happened in our world in the last 23 years. We have a huge population of young agents in our market, not only locally, but nationally. And I think you would agree that your experience is somewhat finite in experiencing money, rates, and inventory. And you've learned a lot in just 6 months, right? There's been a lot of change, but in a good way, if in my opinion. Like stabilization is a big deal and really, really important. So give me your take on it, and let's, you know, talk through that for a minute with everyone.
No, for sure. Entered the market at a really wacko time to be in. It was a lot and it was intense, and it was exciting because it was really go. It was really fun, but a lot less fun when I was mostly just working with buyers and not working with sellers, because there for a couple of years, if I was working with buyers, I could get people pre-approved at a great rate, and that was so exciting. But unless I'm working with sellers, I'm having a really hard time out there, you know, with my buyers. We're seeing 10, 15. I had a couple who I wrote 18 offers with before we found them their dream home.
But now, don't you think that's changing a little bit, Nolan? Today.
In that beginning stages, like I just kind of was at this place of like, is this what this is like? Like, is it just, am I just gonna, in my life now, just calling my buyers with like sad news after sad news after sad, and it was just, oh God, it was hard. It was really hard. But no, things have shifted in, I think, a really incredible way. Not just for buyers, for sellers too. You know, we're still seeing things sell there. Oh God, I'm thinking of a few weeks ago, our sales meeting, Judd had shared like a slide that said like price reductions for your new agents. A price reduction is when you reduce the listing price of a home for like,
classic, man.
Like 2 years, which is so funny. And he's right, like none of my listings in the past 2 years were we reducing the price ever, because everything was flying off the shelves in multiple offers in 24 hours.
That's really funny.
And that is still the case in some situations, and we've talked about this a lot. You know, the homes that we're seeing, the homes that we're selling, homes that are priced correctly for the market, which we'll get into, but homes that are taking our advice and are doing neutral paint, neutral flooring, homes that are staging, homes that are bringing in our photographers, homes that are turnkey ready in desirable areas and that are priced correctly, are still getting multiple offers. Some of them are still getting above asking price. But we just are coaching our sellers now to say like, hey, you need to price your home correctly for this market. We need to look
Right.
at the inventory that's on the market. We need to see what you're up against, and we need to price accordingly. We can't price your home the way we would have priced it this time last year because
Right.
there's 20 homes for sale right now and interest rates are up. So buyers are a lot pickier.
Right.
Buyers Buyer affordability is down a little bit, and buyer competition is also down because some people have left the market.
Mm-hmm.
So buyers can afford to be a little pickier. So we need to really show your house in the best possible light. And that was not
Absolutely.
the case. Oh my God. Like a year ago, people were just throwing whatever home they wanted up on the market, barely a photo on the MLS, like blurry, like no opens, no nothing. And they were flying off the
You know me, I have a zero tolerance for that.
I know, and I hate it too, but that is
Yeah.
what was now. We're back to, I think, a return from what I gather, I guess, because I wasn't there, but a return
Yeah.
to normal of like, no, we should be working these homes and showing them in the best possible light. And then on the flip side with that, with our buyers, the biggest shift I've seen in the last even 5 months, 4 months,
Yeah.
is my buyers, even with interest rates where they are, interest rates have increased. My buyers are having such an easier time finding their homes right now.
Well, there's more inventory. Yeah.
There's more inventory, there's
Stabilization.
buyer competition. And even if interest rates have come up a little bit, buyers are able to buy down points, still get a fairly aggressive interest rate, especially if we're comparing
Right.
to what rates have done over the past 15 to 30 years. We're still at a really competitive rate over the
Very.
history.
A lot of people, I think that's what I want to talk about that because I do think in the last 5 years and with this large young population of buyers out there,
Mm-hmm.
their viewpoint on what normal is really not, it's skewed,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
they don't realize that this rate right now is lower than our historic average. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, we were putting down deals left and right back in 2005, 2006 at 6 to 6.5%, and
Oh,
not
for
even
sure.
thinking twice about that. So,
Yeah.
the rate, the rate is not something that's driving decision making like there's a big audience out there. Not everybody's buying right now.
Mm-hmm.
They may be
Mm-hmm.
listening to the media, right? And they may be
Mm-hmm.
fixed on something because it's media driven conversation. But in fact, in real life, it's I say we're running the trenches here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not at all driving our market. If anything, we're now able to see a lot of our buyers who were struggling at the beginning of the year landing a home are now able to come in and have a success story and find the home of
Yeah.
their dreams and
Yeah.
have an easier time of it in terms of finding
And
something they really love.
often get it maybe under asking price, or at
Mhm.
least get to have an inspection now, and or
Mhm.
maybe get some seller paid closing costs, and
Yeah,
that was out of the question 6 months to a year ago.
that's a
Having an
that's a
inspection, seller paid
yeah,
closing costs, that was out of the question.
right.
And
You
now
couldn't get that
seeing
at all.
buyers who are getting that to happen for them, which is really, really exciting. Yeah.
That's another very valid and important conversation point is the actual price point of the inventory out there, Nolan. You just nailed it on the head. It's not that we're seeing reduced prices. We're seeing we're not in a multiple offer market anymore where the
Mm-hmm.
price points are elevated,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when people are looking at what sold 6 months ago in a
Mm-hmm.
multiple offer and thinking that's their benchmark, it's not that
Yeah.
their properties have dropped in value. It's just they're not going in a multiple offer and the pricing has
Right.
stabilized because there's more inventory, right?
Well, and when those properties were selling at that price, we need to also remember, in order to get that home, those buyers probably had to also pay like an appraisal gap of $50,000
Right.
because the appraised for that
Because
price.
there was no
So
comps. Yeah.
there's no comps. It's not appraising for that price. They're paying over value,
Right.
which for your dream home, and if you're in a multiple offer situation, might still be worth it to some buyers, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's where the value is. That's what we're comparing to when we're pricing homes now.
Absolutely. And we're having great, I mean, we are even on the team, we have a few properties that we're pricing at what their expectation. We have an opinion, the seller has an opinion. We honor the seller's opinion if that's what they really want to do. And we
Yep.
have had a couple of reductions.
Yeah.
As soon as you hit the sweet spot, everybody, it goes.
Mm-hmm.
All about the pricing, it's all about the condition. Those two things. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't keep enough inventory on the market right now because we are still inventory slight, just
Yeah.
as it's not as much so as it was.
Right. Like we are
Yeah.
still historically have less inventory. I think in the meeting we were talking, there's only 1.8 months of inventory right now, which is
Mm-hmm.
low. That's really
Right.
low, but that's compared to 1.2 or 1, last year. So we are still up from that, but yeah, historically we're still sitting at a really low point of inventory. So you're right, like homes are still selling. The homes that are
Oh my
priced
gosh,
right,
yeah.
homes, and I've had this conversation with some sellers of mine, is when we're talking about your home and pricing, we need to show the value of your home at this price point. Just because buyers are pickier, there's more inventory right now. We can't push and be the most expensive home in the neighborhood anymore just because that's
Mhm.
what it was selling at 6 months ago. We
Mhm.
need to be
It's true.
the best deal in your neighborhood right now.
Absolutely.
Like, we need to market your home as, look at this incredible home. Oh wow, for only that price is still what it's worth. It's
Mhm.
just, because buyers are comparing it to prices 6 months ago. So they're going to say, oh wow, only that price, incredible. And
Really
that's
incredible. Very, very cool. So we've been going through business planning. I see everybody on the team rocking and rolling right now. If anything, we've amped up in terms of our busyness, market
Mhm.
opinions. We called equity analysis reports. People interested in getting primed for the new year, or even considering selling right now. Still, it's a very active market. How do you see the fourth quarter shaking out for you, Nolan, and 2023? Based on your outside perspective of what you hear out in the industry, talking to your clients,
Mhm.
talking to your peeps, if you will.
Yeah, third into fourth quarter is always a weird time of year just because of the start of the school year. So there's always kind of this weird little gap between like September, early September into October. And so you kind of start to feel this slump of like, oh, what's fourth quarter going to look like? Things have slowed down. But then, after September has come and gone, we see a lot of activity in October, November. I think last year my busiest month for closings was January, and
Mm-hmm.
that is business that started in October, November. They're
Mm-hmm.
going their contract November, December, closing in January. So we're seeing um, there's an influx of buyer activity out there during the holidays, which is strange.
Absolutely.
Like it feels counterintuitive, but everyone's already been on all their vacations all summer long. Towards the end of the summer, school started. Now people are thinking, oh, I want to beat the spring market, so let's
Mm-hmm.
find a home this winter.
Yep.
Um, so we see some activity there, and I think doing so is a great opportunity for buyers because you're beating the slight price hike that we're going to see in the spring
It
market.
just is inevitable, at least in our market. It's an
Yep.
inevitable thing that really, really happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have more inventory now than we will in spring market. And
Mm-hmm.
naturally, people just are primed emotionally, psychologically to want to make these decisions coming into
Mm-hmm.
spring market and before the throes of the summer. So it's a fabulous
Mm-hmm.
time to buy and sell.
Yeah.
There's a need
Yeah.
on both levels for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're planning that out, what are you sharing with your ecosystem, your sphere, in terms of what's going on out there and the motivator? Let's say all the rent. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
rental right now. We just
Mm-hmm.
had this conversation this week. The differential between renting versus buying and the
Yeah.
motivator there to build like the equity opportunity and the
Mm-hmm.
wealth opportunity in purchasing. What would
Yeah.
you share with
Well,
everybody?
I mean, that's it right there. You nailed it on the head. It's the wealth and equity opportunity. And when you're paying rent, you are lighting your money on fire and then turning it into a little paper airplane and sending it right over. It burns by the time it's gone. Your money's out the door and you will never see it back.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, they're at a stage in life where renting makes sense for them. And we're not in the business of forcing people to buy before they're ready,
Right.
but I am in the business of saying, if you are ready and you are capable and you've been thinking about it, let's stop talking about it and let's get into some realities of what
Let's
that's
do it. Yeah.
because people are shocked at what some of their mortgages can end up, even with interest rates where they are. People are paying mortgages pretty comparable to what their rents were, and now
Absolutely.
wealth and equity in their homes, and maybe they only stay there for 3 to 5 years. Well, guess what? In 3 to 5 years your home will have increased 3 to 5% per year in value year over year, and now you've got
Mhm.
some equity in that home you can sell and purchase again. It's if you're in a place where you can buy, I tell my buyers this all the time, especially first time buyers who are currently renting. The
Mhm.
best time to buy a house is as soon as you're ready to buy a house.
Mhm. Just
Because
and do you think a lot of them feel like they need more money than they actually do?
yes, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, yes. And And there's different strategies, and that's something to talk about with your lender and with your realtor. And we have Chad, who we work with here in our office through Edina Mortgage, and he is a great resource. I'm trying to connect him
Awesome.
with my buyers as soon as possible, because so many of my buyers are saying, I don't know what we can afford. We're trying to save a ton of money. Maybe we'll be able to save up and put down a down payment, etc. And that's great. But like, have you had a conversation with a lender about what you might qualify for? And if you can get approval to put 3% down,
Yep.
or 0.5 or what, there's ways that you can put a lot less down than you think, and then still save some money so that you can make some of those improvements. You can buy down some points. Maybe then you have a more aggressive interest rate, so that your monthly payment is still close to where you want it to be, but you save yourself a little money at the onset.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't think about this either. You can double down and even triple down. Let's say you're in a commission business, or let's say you're in a position where you're going to get a major bonus. You can just pay down that mortgage, everybody. And once you hit the 20% mark, your PMI goes
Mm-hmm.
away.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that, that just doesn't dawn on people. Well, oh, that's
Yeah.
true. I'll just put
Yeah.
less down now. So I'm not paying that rent anymore. My rent money is now going into something that I own. So my
Mm-hmm.
cost to do business is no different. And as I'm incurring more income, I'll just throw it back at the house to get my PMI off. And I'm
Yeah.
able to get to my 20% mark and beyond.
Yeah.
Right. Very
Mm-hmm.
cool. I totally agree with that. So if you were, we have a huge population, like 50% of the market, right? Very young market
Yeah.
in the city
Yeah.
and all over the country, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, we have some really cool resources when it comes to helping people. I call it put the lipstick on. We have a lot of tired real estate in the marketplace under a half a million, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
share with everybody how we can solve for creating the aesthetic that it's not as hard as people think. How can
No,
we
it's
help them with that, Nolan?
Well, it's not as hard as
Have
people
you?
think, especially when you're working with people like us who have the connections. If you're starting from square one and you don't have the connections, and your realtor is saying, hey, do XYZ and call us when you're done and then we'll sell it. Like, that's not helping anyone.
No.
So I think we're setting our buyers up or our sellers up in a really great position where we're saying, hey, here's what we recommend, and here's all of the connections. And in fact, we're going to schedule those appointments for you, and your house is going to be clean, pristine, ready to hit the market in 2 weeks, which I think, taking that burden off of sellers' shoulders while they're already worrying about all these other things, getting their
Mm-hmm.
house ready to sell, like just being able to take that off their shoulders is, I think, a major benefit of what we do. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you said, there's a lot of tired real estate under that half a million mark right now in the cities. We're
Which
seeing
is,
a lot.
don't you think it's a great thing to buy too, though, for your buyers? Like,
Oh yeah.
see
Oh
what I
my
mean?
gosh.
Like, so many of them get caught up. I'm not going to look at
Mhm.
that. That's those brown paneled walls or
Mhm.
that ugly kitchen.
I heard like once, like, when you're buying real estate, always buy the worst house in the best neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and because that is going to be the biggest return on your investment when you decide
Absolutely.
you're going to be able to build the most equity if you buy the worst house in the best neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a little creativity and aren't afraid of bringing in a little paint and a little flooring and whatever, I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of opportunity there. But like, kind of touching on what we said earlier, like, our homes are selling, but they're the homes that have fresh neutral paint, that have fresh flooring, that have maybe updated some appliances. Kitchens, bathrooms obviously go a really long way, but that's not always necessary.
Right.
If you're finding those buyers who aren't afraid to put a little work in, build some equity themselves, aren't afraid to buy the best home or the worst home in the best neighborhood,
Right.
there's an opportunity there.
Well, and I think there's better value. So the point is for the young population, going after the ugly is okay because we know how
Mhm.
to fix it for you
Yeah.
on a budget. Like we can go into
Yeah.
an ROI on that right out of the gate, and we've got
Oh yeah,
resources.
and that's a conversation I'm having with my buyers when we're walking through these homes. Is they're seeing all the HGTV aesthetic
Yeah.
of it all everywhere, and we're walking into these homes and they're saying like, oh, I don't know about that flooring, I don't know about that wall, and I'm like, well, that's just a tile flooring. Like, pull that out, we'll throw down some LVP or some carpet, you're gonna love it, and that's gonna be just a couple $1,000s. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's and when you're looking at in the long run of your enjoyment in the home, and also resaleability and the equity you're going to build in that and the resale value, like, that's not a huge thing to take on. I have that
Absolutely.
in kitchens all the time. We're walking through kitchens and I'm saying, yeah, you could do new counters, new blah blah blah, new blah blah blah. you can have a new kitchen for $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that shocks people because they think it needs to be like $100,000 for a
Right.
full kitchen. And that's not always the case. It can be,
Right.
depending on your taste level and your aesthetic, and what if you want the new Sub-Zero 3-panel refrigerator, like that's $60,000 right there. But you don't have to do that.
Right. Exactly. If the point is you can get some great value
Yeah.
on the ugly and you can create it into something amazing and beautiful
Mhm.
and you aren't paying rent anymore.
Right. You
That's the
aren't paying rent
beautiful thing.
anymore. And when you're working with us, we have those connections for you. We will
Mhm.
bring in, we've brought in, even during walkthroughs with buyers at the inspection, we'll bring in our general contractor to quote you what the repairs and renovations will be.
Right.
We'll bring in our interior designer that we have a good relationship with, and she can tell you her vision of the space
Mm-hmm.
so that you see it as we're entering it. You know, there's
Absolutely.
opportunity there to make something beautiful, and we have the resources. We know the countertop people, we know the electricians, we know the plumbers. We'll
Mhm.
get people in there to help you out. You don't have to do it on your own.
Well, what's really cool too, because of our ecosystem and background, we really have a team of micro mini designers, do we not?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
really fall into that category. You can pretty much spot on say, do X, Y, Z, and you're going to spend about this much money. Done.
Mhm.
We can get it
Yeah.
done in X amount of months or days or
Mhm.
whatever it might be, which is a
Mhm.
really great service to be able to provide everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to leave your audience, Nolan, with the top three things they should know this year and coming into 2023, I'm putting you on the hook
Ah,
here. What would they be?
um, this leaving this year going into 2023. One, we don't know what interest rates are going to do. We can follow trends and we can try to pay attention, but at the end of the day, we do not know. There is no 100% crystal ball guaranteed forecast of interest rates.
Correct.
But we do know what prices are going to do. We do know that prices will continue to increase year over year. We're returning to a bit of normalcy where prices are increasing 3 to 5% year over year. There for a while, they were increasing like 10% year over year, which is unhealthy and not normal.
Mm-hmm.
But prices will continue to go up, especially as we enter the spring market. So, number one, I guess, is if you're a buyer who's on the fence about interest rates and prices, and you're saying, "Oh, I'll wait for prices and interest rates to go down."
Right.
Um, First of all, one half of that definitely not happening. The other half of that, we don't know if that's going to happen. So
Right.
let's lock you into a rate. Let's pay down some points. Let's refinance if they go down. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's opportunity
Well,
there.
that'll happen. We know that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's number one. Number two, I guess, is um, don't underestimate how prepared you are to enter the market. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and we've seen with interest rates doing what they've done with the inventory, just everything. Some buyers have pulled off their search. There's
Right.
opportunity out there. There's some great inventory on the market, um,
Absolutely.
and you might be more ready than you think you are to buy.
Gotta
Uh,
ask. Rip the
yeah, you
band-aid
gotta
off. Ask the question.
yeah, you gotta ask the question. Think about it. And even if you're just curious, reach out and say. And I guess this is kind of part number three. Um, Reach out to a realtor. Just ask some questions. Just say, hey, we kind of might want to move, maybe next year, maybe, blah, blah, blah. I'll say, okay, great. Have you connected with a lender about what that affordability might look like for you, about loan types, etc.? And they're like, oh, not really. I'm like, let's have a no obligation, stress-free,
Mm-hmm.
easy lifestyle consultation. We'll talk about kind of what you're looking for. And I'm
Right.
going to put you in touch with a lender because you might be more prepared than you think. And then suddenly they're asking these questions they didn't even know they needed, and I'm giving them answers, and we're having these conversations, and they're realizing like, oh, we want to buy this month,
Right.
and we can find them a great home for a great price. And if they had just continued to sit and think about it,
Yeah.
maybe never happened. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Nolan. Really, really. At the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And we love sharing the knowledge. We love that. And our
Mhm.
100% commitment is to the partnership, no timeline in mind.
Yeah.
Short-term plan, long-term plan.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The long-term plan is fine. Like we
Mm-hmm.
don't don't hesitate to reach out to a realtor because you're not ready right now. You're
Mm-hmm.
not wasting our time. We're happy to meet with you and talk with you.
That's our
If we
job. Yeah.
that's our job. That's what we do. if
Mm-hmm.
we if we take a couple years to get to the finish line, that's fine. This month I have a closing with a buyer I met last June.
Yep.
And just had some kind of conversations here and there, some
Yep.
casual searches, and then we would go see a house every 2 months.
Right.
And it was the month we would go back, didn't really take a lot of time for me. But then when we saw this home come on the market, I reached out to her right away. I said, hey, I know we've been searching really casually for a long time. There's a house on the market that we need to go see. And I think it is the one. And we did it and we found it. And now she's in her dream home. It took us, I think, 14 months. Now, by the time we close it, I think it'll have been 16 months since I first met this buyer.
That's normal, by the way, everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's okay. I think some people
totally
are
okay.
afraid to like waste a realtor's time and say like, oh, we're not really ready to buy until next year. That's fine.
It's about the relationship for us.
Yeah.
It's not about putting a deal together, what you hear out in the market. It's about the relationship. We want the relationship forever because that means we're meeting friends and family members and, you know, hell, we just got that listing we just put on. I've known that family for 15 years. You know, there's no timetable to the work that we do, is there? Brilliant, brilliant information, Nolan. Is there one last piece of advice you want to give to everybody before we finish our interview today?
Oh gosh, one last piece of advice. I guess don't be overwhelmed by what you're hearing about the market right now. There are a lot of scary headlines. There's a lot of crazy information. I think there was something in the Star Tribune last week about like why it's a horrible time to buy a home. And it's like, well,
no, it's not.
No, it's not. It's actually a great time to buy a home if you can afford to buy because you're going to start building equity at an amazing opportunity. You know, it's just there's a lot of mess out there. And I think kind of as with everything, I hate to do the cliche of like, but not everything you hear in the media is 100% accurate.
Well, it's not even close in many cases.
No. And don't rely on the headline. At least read the article.
Yeah.
But then once you read the article, if you have questions, reach out and talk to someone who's an expert in that field.
Right. Well, everybody wants to have an opinion, right?
Yeah.
So it's what you choose to hear.
Yeah, but just
learning the facts. Learn the facts.
Learn the facts and don't be overwhelmed or scared by what you're seeing right now because what I'm seeing and what I'm dealing with are a lot of buyers who are finding incredible homes for incredible prices and are so happy that they're entering the market right now.
We can get you home for the holidays.
We can. I had a closing a couple years ago on December 23rd. It was like the last closing before the title office closed for the holiday season. And it was such a fun, like little Christmas present to those buyers.
Awesome.
Like,
I love that story.
I loved it.
Yeah. Awesome interview, Nolan. Thank you so much. Nolan Henningson, a privilege to have you on the team and be a part of your real estate business, Nolan, truly. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you all soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Great job. There you go. 36 minutes. Perfect, Carter.
Perfect.
That was a great interview. There's good content there.
I think so too.
Carter, like you've seen it, he'll splice and dice it and you can do whatever you're going to want to it. I think we're going to drop this one next Thursday.
Next week.
Sorry. Yeah. Next week.
Okay.
And then we'll